Alright, so Jerome asked me if I'd come in and do a little presentation on shed hunting. What we do to find sheds, little tips for you guys to pick out along the way. First thing I have up here is why do we shed hunt, and why should you maybe go out there and shed hunt? Biggest thing for us is it's scouting. After the rifle season, you see all these bucks that are shot, and it's kind of depressing in a way, looking at all the deer shot and the deer that you might have been going after, might be laying in the back of somebody's truck, but when you're out there scouting, you get to go out there and see who made it through. There might be a buck out there that you might not know about, and all of a sudden stumble upon. It's pretty exciting, to tell you the truth. It's actually, to compare to actual hunting, I would say it gives you the same adrenaline rush as it is when you go out there and actually harvest the deer. Finding these things is pretty exciting. We've had some pretty good times finding these sheds. It's another reason to get back out in the woods with all your buddies, your friends, your family, kids. It's good exercise, it's a challenge, and overall it's a lot of fun. This is a tough question to answer here. When do the antlers fall off? The biggest thing to me, I think it depends on the deer. They talk about the winters, right? If it's a tough winter, they're more likely to drop their sheds earlier on. This year's been a pretty mild winter, and we've actually had deer on camera that have dropped late December, early January. So I think a lot of it has to do with genetics, but winter does play a little bit of a factor. The previous winter, the rut, if they really get run down, they're more likely to lose their antlers a little earlier. The food source you have there, and then also injuries play a factor. They also talk about testosterone. Once the does are all bred, the testosterone drops in the bucks, and once that testosterone drops, those antlers end up popping off also. Last one on the bottom there, when you're out looking for sheds, they talk about, if you can find a matched set right next to each other. Well, that doesn't always happen. And Andy actually sent me this YouTube video. It's not going to pull up because we can't connect the Wi-Fi, but Andy, do you remember what that video was?
Yeah, deer with any of that.
Yeah, it was a big mule deer buck. Big, non-typical mule deer was out there, and this guy was filming it, and it starts to run off, and all of a sudden one side drops off on camera, which is pretty cool. And he continues to film it, and this mule deer runs, I don't know how much further, I would say probably 300 yards for sure before it finally dropped that other side. Now if you're out there looking, not knowing exactly where that's going to be, it's a difficult find, and that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it a challenge. But they're not always going to drop right next to each other. We've found a few right out in the food plot where all of a sudden you find a match set, but more than likely you're not going to find that match every time. You're going to have to go out there and do a little hunting for it. Where do you start? It actually starts in the spring when you're planting those food plots for your deer. You have to make sure you have enough food for the winter, because right now, the plots that we have, we're feeding a lot of deer, and we're starting to run out of food source, but you have to make sure you have enough food, whether it's your carbs, your brassicas, whatever it is they like to eat on in your area. You got to make sure you have enough, you have the right stuff in there. So that starts in the spring. If you want to find sheds, you got to have a spot for them to go in winter and have food for them to stay there. Also, you need to have cover. We like planting pine trees, and pine trees has proven to do the job for us. We found a lot of our sheds in pine trees, whether it's in Minnesota or out in Wisconsin. We've went out there last year, Wisconsin. I would say we found probably 8 sheds. There was actually one set, but the biggest one we found, Travis found, it was an 8-point buck that we found dead, and it was probably about 140 class 8-pointer. And where was he laying? Right on a little pine line. And it was kind of weird, like, oh, there's pine trees over there, let's go check it out. Travis went over there, and sure enough, there laid that nice 8-point. So that, like I said, it starts in the spring. You plant your foods, you plant your cover, And then also, you got to keep running trail cameras. If you want to find the antlers, we're still running our trail cameras. We usually run them all year long. We went out there last weekend to check to see what's out there, and we just did a little walking around, and I saved all the pictures because we have a little card viewer, and I couldn't see because of the glare of the sun, so I just saved them all. And then once we got back to the shop, we put it on the computer and looked, and the night before there was an 8-point buck out there. So some of them are still carrying their horns, but you got to keep scouting. What I like doing too is from a distance, I'll stay a mile away from where the deer are coming out, and I'll just blast them with the binoculars, see if there's any horns out there. A good sign to where to look is where all the deer are coming out. If you see deer, there's more likely probably going to be some antlers around there, but look for the trails in the snow, see where the deer are at. It's a lot of fun when you're with other people. That picture of me on top there, that was myself when I was down in Pipestone. And the only way I could celebrate with friends is by taking a picture of myself and send it to everybody else saying, hey, look what I found. But that was a pretty exciting day for myself. Set a date. Our date's kind of in March. Because like I said, we still have bucks that are carrying their antlers. And the thing is, if you go in too early, it's just like hunting. If you go in too early and you're messing around, you're going to spook those deer off. So you kind of got to stay out and be patient. I know we've been chomping at the bit to get out there and do some searching, but there's still bucks that are carrying their antlers, and if you go in there too early, you're going to bump them out of there and they're going to go somewhere else. So our date is kind of that early March, but for sure we're going to let it go this month, like I said. But at the same time, we're going to keep scouting and watching our trail cams. If we don't see any more antlers out there, we might go in a little early. But also, it's there's quite a bit of snow out there. If there's a big rack laying on the ground, you might be able to find it. But you know, around in Minnesota here, there isn't too many of those. But once that snow's gone, you know, it's a lot easier to see. More people, more sheds. Get a bunch of people together. I know we're going to try to get as many as our hunting party together when we go out looking. You're able to cover more ground. If anybody has a dog and interested in training them to find antlers, they make this rack stick, it's called, and they should sell it at Shields. And what you do is you put it around the base of the antler, because that's where they carry the most scent, is right around that base where it connects to the skull. And what you do is you put it around there, and they say just treat it like you're going to train a dog to go pheasant hunting. You know, just play fetch with it. When they're young, play fetch with it, and you know, set the antler by it, and have that rack stick handy to put on there. I don't know much about the dogs, but that's just some stuff I heard. Like I said, don't go too early. We've had, like I said, December we've had some deer drop antlers. This picture here was January 16th. He was still carrying his. That was 2008. So late February, March is what we like to do. Little or no snow. And also it makes a big difference if it's cloudy out or sunny out. When it's sunny out, it's really difficult to find antlers because you have your shadows on the ground. And when it's cloudy out, and actually if there's a little moisture, those antlers are going to stick out a lot more. I know when I was down in Pipestone, I went out one day and it was sunny out, and I was in a bean stubble field and walked, didn't find any, and I went out there the next day just to walk around some more because I had nothing to do, and I ended up finding like 7 sheds, and we walked right by them. But it was so much easier to see because the clouds were over and there was a little more moisture on the ground, because I went out there earlier with the dew on the ground yet, and I was able to find those. So it makes a big difference, especially in the woods too when you have all those shadows. When looking, take your time, keep your eyes at deer level. And what I mean by that is, we've run into it before where you're sitting there looking on the ground, and all of a sudden there will actually be an antler stuck in a willow tree or something like that. Travis, when he found this one over here, it was pretty cool because we found this side first. We had no idea that this buck existed. And we found this side, and as soon as we found this, we were like, what in the heck is that? And as soon as we saw it, you know, we cheered a little bit, excited, and then boom, we all just spread out and started looking. And we were probably looking for about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden we heard Travis go, "Get over here!" Oh boy, so we took off running, and he said he stood by this pine tree, when he was bow hunting this year, I don't know, probably about an 8-foot pine tree, and he's just standing there, and he put out a scent wick on this willow tree. And he just sat there and he just kind of remembering how the hunt went and whatnot. And also he looked at that scent wick, and he looked down, and there, buried in the snow, you could see a little bit of this antler here sticking out of there. But what was interesting about it too was the willow was rubbed up. So kind of what that tells us is that willow was rubbed up right there, and that antler was laying there. What we kind of think happened is he lost this funky side first, and this other side was still on there, and he was sick of it being on his head, so he started rubbing on a willow tree, trying to get that other side off. And we've actually seen it too, where we find little antlers hanging, in a brush like this high off the ground. So you kind of keep your eyes at deer level, I guess you would say. Dress appropriate. That's what's nice when there's no snow. You don't have to wear your big boots. You can wear shoes, if it's nice enough out. ATV, if you're unable to get out there and walk, ATV works nice if you're going to drive around and check out tree lines. Which brings me to my next point. Where do you have the most success looking? They say where the deer spend the most time. And where's that? Bedding and feeding. Okay, so in Pipestone, it was actually pretty easy to find them down there because they had a certain spot that was just cedars. And if you've ever been down southwest Minnesota, there ain't a whole lot down there for trees, so if you find public land with cedars down there, you got pretty good odds of finding some sheds because that's where they're going to be bedding. So down there, I walked every single row. I didn't have too much to do down there, so I walked every single row, and if I found one side, I was going to hunt until I found that other side. It was either in that bedding area or not too far from the food source too. They're not going to bed too far away from the food source because they don't want to burn up that much energy during the winter. They want to be able to consume that food and then lay down and go to bed. Sunny areas, those deer want to catch a little sun, so on those south side slopes, just on the south side of trees. Transition areas from food to bed. Tree lines are good. Food plots, fence crossings. Those deer jump over the top of the fence, sometimes that jars those antlers loose, or even if they're just walking a fence line, the trails, trees. Biggest thing is everywhere. Those antlers can be anywhere. I've walked, like I said, I checked the bedding areas, didn't find anything, walking back to my car, and I'm 50 feet from my car, and all of a sudden there's a little fork laying next to me in the middle of the grass. So they can be anywhere. Now you don't own land, notice here, people say, I don't have land to go do that on. Well, all these here, these are the ones I found down in Pipestone. This is all public ground. You have the Minnesota DNR website you can go on, and it tells you exactly, if you go on Google Earth, where public ground is in the state of Minnesota. But yeah, all these here I found on public ground. What next? Okay, we have a pretty good taxidermist here in town. He can mount you up something. You can sell them. I know when we were out in Wisconsin last year at a deer show, you can make some really good money. I forget the exact number. You remember offhand what they were selling us for? What was it? Well, I think if you end up getting a deer that scores over like 200 inches, you can make like $15,000 off them. I mean, there's down in Iowa, people are buying them left and right, and there's big value in it. You score them, have them scored, and then you can also build stuff with them, whether it's lights and whatnot. These here that we found, right here, Art Ruck actually shot this buck this year, and we decided, you know what, it'd be pretty cool if Art was able to have those with his head mount hanging up there. So we decided that, you know what, they're going to mean a lot more to Art than they will to us, and we decided that, you know what, it'd be pretty cool if Art could have those next to the deer. So that's what we did with those. So that was pretty cool. Like I said, it starts now. There's still deer carrying their antlers. Cameras. DNR talks about not feeding the deer, and we actually just put corn out again last week. And why are we able to do it and be confident about it? Because we're actually putting corn out right next to a cornfield. So those deer are coming to corn, but yet we're going to put the corn here where it's easy access, and they're going to come right in front of the camera. So they're still eating corn. It's not like we're taking them off and putting them on a different diet. They're still going to that cornfield. We're just putting it right here where it's easy for them, and they have to step in front of the camera so we can tell what's out there. Also, we've been putting mineral out. If you ever heard of that trophy rock, there's stuff that we put out. It's called Redmond, and we actually get it at the Pierce Co-op. And basically, it's the exact same thing as trophy rock, but it's just ground up. We actually use it for cattle, I believe, but it's a lot cheaper. I think it's $10 for a 50-pound bag, and that trophy rock you're paying $20, $30 for a rock this big. So it's fairly cheap, and that's what we put out there. And not only for the bucks to help them grow their antlers, but also for the does to help produce healthy fawns. Like I said, light scouting, stay back, don't go in there too early and bump them out. Set a date. Trust me, it's fun. If you got legs underneath you or an ATV or something you can ride, you get the guys together, the girls, the family, everybody together, just pick a date, get back out there, and try to find some sheds yourself. But I guarantee you, when we found that one over there, we were more excited than when any one of us ever shot a deer. Because the best part is that deer is still out there, and you get a chance to hunt it. So that's what makes it exciting for us. If you want, you can come up here and take a look at the sheds that we found. Like I said, majority of them we found all last year. Some were from out in Wisconsin, some were from Minnesota, public ground, private ground, just everywhere. If you have any questions, you can come up and ask. But other than that, have a good night.